Hola amigos, bien ok. Saludos, otra vez desde Medellín. Bueno, poco tarde hoy, pero el tema de hoy es para cuando tú necesitas pensar, cuál palabras, cuál vocabulario necesito. Recuerdo que es muy distinto la diferencia desde entender una lengua para escribir libros, o por ejemplo para estudiar muy profundo en la universidad, y por el vocabulario útil que tú necesitas para hablar con gente. Ese es el tema de hoy. Cómo puedes seleccionar mejor y en forma más útil los verbos especial o el vocabulario que tú necesitas. So here we are. Hello again from Medellin, day 2 of 2024. So the theme for today is, let's look again at how we can best choose the words we need. Because if we think about it, it's quite a daunting idea. There's so many words we could use. And when we look in a lot of books where they have lists of vocabulary and verbs to learn particularly, there are hundreds. But in truth, if we think carefully, we probably don't need that many. Because there is a big difference between the lists of verbs and words you see in a lot of the textbooks and the actual number of verbs and words, shall we say, that you really need day to day, particularly when we're speaking. So remember, a lot of the textbooks are written to help you study because they're expecting you to need to write in the language. Particularly they're looking at you to have studied so you can go perhaps to university or complete some course of higher study, for which you will need a lot more vocabulary. This is true. But for your general day-to-day practice, just talking with people, going about your normal daily work, if you think very carefully, and if you want to put this to the test, go back into your language, your native language, and just note down some of the more general conversations you have, and look at how many different verbs and words you really use in a given day. It's not that many. Another way to do this is to look at some of these big lists of verbs. I was looking at some of these today in one of my Spanish textbooks, and although it's interesting to understand what they are, so when you see them or when you hear them you know what the verb actually is, what does it mean, really, is this a verb I'm going to use today? When was the last time I used this particular word or this particular verb? This is the question to think about. Because if you can't point to that word and say, oh, that's a word I use a lot in my conversations, then that's not a word for you. It's enough that you understand what it means, so that's a reason to know it, but it might not be one that you need to memorize or to practice in all its forms because you don't use it. So this means there are lots of this vocabulary that you can basically, almost forget about. So that makes it a bit easier to study because now there's less things for you to worry about in detail. And this is important because for us as adults learning the language, we do not have the advantage of back when we were 5, 6, 7, 8 years old as children. We had all the time and we just needed to listen for new words and it was okay. We don't have this level of time. We're trying to do in like a year or two what took us 15, maybe even 20 years if we're talking about full academic level fluency in our own language. So we're trying to compress a lot of learning into a small space of time. So be selective. When you're looking at the vocabulary lists and you're worried about, I need to learn all these verbs, well, yes and no. we do need to read things so that we at least know of them. So we know, okay, yeah, this word means this is a word in this. But if it's not a word that you commonly use, then it's not a word for you, because all of us have our own, if we like, personal vocabulary. We have our own style of speech. We have a type of or group of words that we use most commonly. That's what we need to focus on. So that's our thought for the day. I hope that helps. I'm going to leave you now because my neighbours in the spinning class have just started and it's going to get noisy. So for now, at least from Medellin, we shall say Cheerio, buena suerte. I'll see you tomorrow.